Welcome to the session on Western philosophy. Today we are going to discuss Aristotelian epistemology. Aristotle, one of the greatest ancient Greek philosophers, was the first to provide a systematic exposition of biology, psychology, physics, and literary theory. Aristotle emphasized the importance of reason and logic. He was born at Stagira in Macedonia, the son of a physician to the royal court. At the age of 17, he went to Athens to study at Plato's academy. He remained there for about 20 years as a student and then as a teacher. He is one of the major figures in Greek and Western philosophy who mesmerized the world with his great works between 384 BC and 322 BC. Some of Aristotle's major areas of study were ethics, poetry, logic, theatre, metaphysics, rhetoric, and music. The great Greek philosopher Aristotle was a man of universal learning. Aristotle's major works include 1. The Organon, 2. Physics, 3. History of Animals, 4. Nicomachean Ethics. His system of thought followed a fivefold division into 1. Logic, 2. Metaphysics, 3. Ethics, 4. Aesthetics. He was more empirically minded than Plato or Socrates and is famous for rejecting Plato's theory of forms. Aristotle developed Plato's system in a more consistent and scientific manner. W.T. Stace remarks that between them the differences are largely superficial and agreement is deep-seated. Aristotle argued with Plato on the essential nature of forms and ideas, but he denied their transcendental character. He criticized Plato on the following grounds. 1. The conception of independent ideas is only an abstraction. 2. Ideas are in fact posterior and not prior to objects. 3. A distinct world of ideas implies an unnecessary duplication of reality. 4. The infinite regress in relating the individual man and the idea of man. Philosophy and science. Plato was the first Greek thinker who constructs an idealistic philosophy. However, his system presented difficulties and inconsistencies. So, Aristotle reconstructed the system and developed it in a more consistent and scientific manner. Plato seemed to place the forms beyond the stars to separate them from the actual world of experience. Aristotle retained the changeless eternal forms but rejected their transcendence. He brings them down from heaven to earth. To Aristotle, forms are not apart from things. They are inherent in them. They are not separate. Matter combines with the form to constitute individual objects in the universe. The world of object is not a mere imitation. It is not the shadow of the real world. It is the real world. Aristotle accepted the organic and teleological presuppositions of his teacher. That is, the universe is an ideal world, an organic whole of interrelated parts, a system of eternal and unchangeable ideas or forms. To Aristotle, the ideas are not detached from the world we perceive, but part and partial of it, and they give it form and life. Our world of experience is not a trustworthy appearance. It is a reality to study and understand. Experiences are the basis of knowledge. Starting from experience, we rise to the science of ultimate principles. Philosophy or science embraces all reasoned knowledge. It includes mathematics and the special sciences. The science of philosophy, which studies the ultimate or first cause of things, is called by Aristotle the first philosophy or metaphysics. The special sciences or philosophies are named by Aristotle as second philosophies. Aristotle arranged the sciences as follows. 1. Logic, the elaborated method of inquiry employed in all the other sciences. 2. Theoretical sciences, it is concerned with pure abstract knowledge. Mathematics, physics, psychology, biology, and metaphysics. 3. Practical sciences. Knowledge is persuaded as a means to conduct. ethics and politics. 4. The productive sciences. Knowledge is subordinated to creation of beauty, aesthetics. The above all classification is thoroughly logical. Logic. The creation of the science of logic is in a certain respect Aristotle's most amazing achievement. Logic, formulated by Aristotle, has dominated the thought of later times. According to him, the function of logic is to describe the method of attaining knowledge. Aristotle considers it as an important instrument for the acquisition of genuine knowledge. Logic is a preliminary science. It is an elaboration of the method employed in the pursuit of all knowledge. Therefore, it is antecedent to all special enquiries. In this sense, it may be described as the sciences of sciences. Aristotle regarded his logic as a tool or an instrument of scientific research to be applied in every sphere of knowledge. Logic is the science of correct thinking. Scientific truth is characterized by strict necessity. It is, in Aristotle's own words, something which cannot be other than it is. Thinking consists in reasoning, in deriving the particular from the universals. Inferences composed of judgments expressed in languages are called propositions. These propositions are made up of concepts or terms. Aristotle discusses the different kinds of judgments. His demonstration or deduction always takes the form of a syllogism. He was the first to discover in the syllogism a basic form in which all thought moves. The syllogism is a discourse in which, from certain premises, something new must follow. It consists of two premises and a conclusion. Thus, in the Aristotelian syllogism, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. We have two premises and the conclusion. The particular is derived from the universal, so it is a deductive form of reasoning. In order to be true, the conclusion must necessarily follow from the premises, and the premises must be universal and necessary. The goal of knowledge is complete demonstration. The ideal science in Aristotle's day was mathematics. His aim was to attain in other sciences the demonstrative certainty of mathematics. This is possible only in a series of syllogisms in which conclusions depend on premises, which in turn are the conclusions of other premises. We must finally reach propositions which cannot be proved deductively, but which have absolute certainty. The system of scientific knowledge thus rests on certain basic truth which neither admits of nor require proof. They are the basis of all truths. Aristotle says, a basic truth is one which has no proposition prior to it. The basic truths are known by intuition, that is, by the immediate and direct insight of the reason. This process is known as induction. Each particular science has such principles of its own. The basic principles are inherent in reason itself. Intuition is the essential element in induction. Induction is the process in which thought rises from sense perception to general concepts. Our knowledge always begins with sense perception and rises from the particular facts to universal concepts. They are the first principle of reality. Induction is a preparation for detection. The ideal of science must always be to derive particulars from universals. This cannot be done without the help of induction. Aristotle tried to reconcile empiricism and rationalism. Knowledge is impossible without experience, but truth derived from experience alone would not be certain. They are probable. There must have a rational basis. Therefore, to Aristotle, genuine knowledge is a body of necessary truths, some of which are basic and guaranteed by intuition. The rest are syllogistically deduced. Logic concerns with the thought forms with the molds to which our thinking must conform if it is to achieve certain truth. Obviously, thought is directed towards some object or other, for thought which is not thought of something is mere empty nothing. The transition from logic or theory of knowledge to metaphysics or theory of being is thus a natural and inevitable one. Metaphysics. Metaphysics is one of the first major branches of philosophy and is sometimes also referred to as natural philosophy. It is the science which investigates the nature of being or substance. This word is derived from two Greek words, meta and physikas, which means beyond and physical respectively. It mainly focuses on explaining the natural and physical universe. Metaphysics also used to be one of way the ancients tried to address scientific questions before modern science was developed. The traditional branches of metaphysics are cosmology and ontology. The two are primarily concerned with describing the types of things on earth and the relationship between them in terms of space, time, origins, prospects and features. Some of Aristotle's works of philosophy laid the foundation for metaphysics that examines nature's existence without regards or special qualities that explains its being. His metaphysics seeks to give elaborate details on objects, matter, God and form. But most of his metaphysics works are influenced by the materials developed by his teacher Plato, namely theory of forms. Some of the key issues addressed by Aristotle's metaphysics include describing existence and kinds of things existing in the world. It also tries to explain why things exist as seen despite the changes they undergo and the various ways of understanding the world. This is slightly different from Plato's theory of form that described things as being eternal while the world as observed undergoes perpetual change. He describes substance as beings that are unique, independent and that all other beings depend on it. For instance, the quality of a being depends on the substance. This is also true for quantity of substance, which relates to its dimension and total numbers in a group. Moreover, non-substances are described as beings that only exist in a subject, therefore void cannot exist separately without depending on a substance. He criticizes the Platonic theory of ideas with the help of following arguments. 1. The ideas are mere abstractions and cannot account for the existence of concrete things. 2. The ideas are static and eternal and therefore cannot explain them. 3. The ideas are unnecessary reproduction of things and so they are not explanation for particular things. 4. The statement that the things are copies of ideas explains nothing. 5. The ideas are prior to particular things and cannot explain them. 6. The relation between the ideas and corresponding things leads to an infinite regress. The problem of metaphysics is the discovery of ultimate principles of reality. Plato regarded the objects in the universe as incomplete copies of the universal idea. Aristotle, on the other hand, regarded the particular objects as real substances. To Aristotle, every individual substance is a mixture of form and matter. By form, Aristotle means the universal aspects of a thing, that is, the essential unity shared by all things at the same time. Matter, on the other hand, is that which gives particularity and uniqueness. Matter and form are inseparable aspects of the individual thing. Here, Aristotle differs from Plato, who asserted the separation of the form or the idea from the thing. The individual objects change and grow. It assumes different qualities. Behind these changes, there must be something to which the different qualities pertain. This principle is matter. It is inseparable from the form. Neither matter nor forms arise or disappear. They are the eternal principles of things. Closely related to the antithesis between form and matter is that between potentiality and actuality. They are the stages in the development of a thing. The potential in the earlier stage and the actual is the later stage. The potential is that which lies latent within a thing. The actual is the completed thing. For example, in the case of a building, the materials of the building are the potential and the completed building is the actual. Therefore, Aristotle calls matter the principle of potentiality and form the principle of reality or actuality. Every form is eternal, but instead of being outside the matter are co-eternal principles of things. The cooperation of form and matter is more clearly illustrated in the creative activity of man. They are described with the help of theory of causation. Aristotle's theory of causation. One of the most distinctive of Aristotle's philosophic contributions was a new notion of causality. Earlier, Greek thinkers had tended to assume that only one sort of cause can be really explanatory. Aristotle developed a systematic and scientific view of causation that can be distinguished from the earlier and the later theories. Accordingly, there are four causal principles operating simultaneously in any case of human or cosmic production or change. Aristotle recognizes four principles operating in any process, that is, four varieties of causes. They can be shown as follows. The four causes. 1. The material cause. It is the undifferentiated stuff from which the things are made. Aristotle illustrates material cause as the formless clay from which the sculptor plans to make his statue. It is essentially the undifferentiated substratum of all becoming. 2. Formal cause. It is the pattern or structure which is to become embodied in the thing when it is fully realizes. So, the formal cause of a statue is the general plan or idea of the statue as conceived by the sculptor. This is the essence of a thing which is identical with Platonic idea. Formal cause represents the definitive aspect of a thing. 3. Efficient cause. This is the active agent which causing the motion or moving force required for every change. So, in the case of a statue, the sculpture as well as the instruments used by him is the efficient cause. 4. The final cause. This is the end, purpose or aim towards which the change is directed. In the case of statue, the final cause is the completed statue itself. The material and formal causes are inherent in the thing or phenomena and hence they are intrinsic. The efficient and final cause lie outside the thing and hence extrinsic. Aristotle ultimately reduces these four principles into two, namely form and matter. The formal, efficient and final can be included in the single conception of form. Aristotle rejected Plato's binary division between idea and object. According to him, matterless form or formless matter is a mere abstraction. They are ontologically inseparable. Ionics considered only the material cause and Pythagoreans only the formal. Aristotle combined both and added the efficient and final cause. He defines cause as the invariable, unconditional and antecedent of a phenomenon. But Aristotle's view of causation is much wider than the modern times. Aristotle thought his causal pattern was the ideal key for organizing knowledge. We must not make mistake of supposing that each individual thing has only one type of cause. Everything, whether it be a natural object, a living plant or animal or a manufactured particle, is explained by the help of all types of causes. The four causes are easily distinguishable in the creative activities of man. The form or plan and the end or purpose coincide in all activities. Forms are purposive forces which realize themselves in the world of matter. Every organism becomes what it is through the action of an idea or purpose. There is a directing principle at work in a seed that makes it impossible for the seed to become anything but a plant of the same species as that from which it came, since forms are unchangeable. Motion and change are explained as the union of form and matter. The idea or form is what causes motion in matter. The idea is the mover and the matter is the thing moved. Motion is the realization of the potentialities of a thing. Form and matter are eternal and therefore motion is also eternal. The eternal motion on the part of matter presupposes an eternal unmoved mover, something that causes motion without itself moving. A given motion in the universe is produced by some other motion, this motion by a third motion, and so on. Since an infinite regress is impossible, it is necessary that there should be, as the first cause of the series of motions, an unmoved mover or God. Aristotle's arguments from motion to the unmoved cause of motion are perhaps the first complete formulation of what has come to be known as the cosmological argument for the existence of God. God is the final cause of all that occurs. All beings in this world, plants, animals and man, desire the realization of their essence because of God. Therefore, God is the unifying and directing principle of the world. He is the goal towards which all things strive, the principles which accounts for all order, beauty and life in the universe. Ethics. Aristotle, like almost all Greeks, can be classified as a eudaemonist. A eudaemonist holds that happiness is always our bottom line for doing what we do. We do what we do, ultimately because we believe it will lead to our happiness. Eudaemonists also tend to believe that happiness is the only thing we value or desire for its own sake. Everything else that we desire, for example leisure, money, skills, friends, knowledge, etc., we desire for the sake of happiness. Aristotle regarded happiness as the aim of life. In his principal work on ethics, the Nicomachean Ethics, he defined happiness as activity that accords with the specific nature of humanity. Pleasure accompanies such activity but is not its chief aim. Happiness results from the unique human attributes of reason functioning harmoniously with human faculties. Aristotle held that virtues are essentially good habits. To attain happiness, a person must develop two kinds of habits. 1. Mental activity, knowledge, which leads to the highest human activity, contemplation. 2. Practical action, emotions such as courage. Moral virtues are habits of action that conform to the golden mean. Aristotle defines the mean as being between the two extremes of excess and insufficiency. Thus, generosity is the mean between prodigality and stinginess. For Aristotle, the intellectual and moral virtues are merely means toward the attainment of happiness, which results from the full realization of human potential. Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics is an analysis of character and intelligence as they relate to happiness. Aristotle distinguished two kinds of virtue or human excellence, moral and intellectual. Moral virtue is an expression of character formed by habits reflecting repeated choices. A moral virtue is always a mean between two less desirable extremes. Courage, for example, is a mean between cowardice and thoughtless rashness. Generosity between extravagance and parsimony. Intellectual virtues are not subject to this doctrine of the mean. Aristotle argued for an elitist ethics. Full excellence can be realized only by the mature male adult of the upper class, not by women or children or barbarians or salaried mechanics, for whom indeed Aristotle did not want to allow voting rights. Aristotle conceives of ethical theory as a field distinct from the theoretical sciences. Its methodology must match its subject matter, good action, and must respect the fact that in this field many generalizations hold only for the most part. We study ethics in order to improve our lives and therefore its principal concern is the nature of human well-being. Aristotle follows Socrates and Plato in taking the virtues to be central to a well-lived life. Like Plato, he regards the ethical virtues as complex, rational, emotional and social skills. But he rejects Plato's idea that training in the sciences and metaphysics is a necessary prerequisite for a full understanding of our good. What we need in order to live well is a proper appreciation of the way in which such goods as friendship, pleasure, virtue, honor and wealth fit together as a whole. In order to apply that general understanding to particular cases, we must acquire through proper upbringing and habits the ability to see on each occasion which course of action is best supported by reasons. Therefore, practical wisdom as he conceives it cannot be acquired solely by learning general rules. We must also acquire through practice those deliberative, emotional and social skills that enable us to put our general understanding of well-being into practice in ways that are suitable to each occasion. Aristotle's general perspective in the Nicomachean Ethics. The following is a brief summary of Aristotle's view of the good life. 1. Everyone wants to be happy. 2. Many do not do what is necessary in order to become happy. 3. To succeed in the pursuit of happiness, you must be a functional human being. 4. To be a functional human being, you must pursue excellence in accordance with your nature. 5. Moral excellence or virtue is following the mean, that is, avoiding the extremes of excess and deficiency. In some cases, re-absolute goods and absolute evils, the mean does not apply, or perhaps we should say that there is no excess but only deficiency with regard to absolute goods and no deficiency but only excess with regard to absolute evils. If you don't pursue the good and avoid extremes and absolute evils, your life will become disorderly, self-destructive, dysfunctional and unhappy. Intellectual excellence or virtue is the exercise of the intellect in pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. It is good to become more knowledgeable and wiser. It is bad to wallow in ignorance and foolishness. You are free to pursue moral and intellectual excellence or not. It is in your own best interest to pursue it, because in pursuing moral and intellectual excellence, you will become more excellent, more functional and happier. If in addition to becoming morally excellent, you also make intellectual excellence your chief goal in life, you will become even happier and the gods will love and bless you because you will be doing what they do. To be happy, you must be a fully functional human being. Some dysfunctional people may think they are happy, but they are not. They are deluded. They are living contrary to their own nature and thus cannot find self-fulfillment or peace of mind. They smoke, they drink, they abuse drugs, they abuse sex, they bite their nails, they are subject to road rage and they disrespect and break the law. In general, they go to extremes and ruin themselves. In addition to virtue and physiological well-being, which are internal goods, the successful pursuit of happiness also requires such external goods as friends, wealth, political power and security. That is what Aristotle calls external prosperity. External prosperity and physiological well-being depend to some extent on good fortune, which means that one's happiness can be undermined at least to some extent by ill fortune. The influence of Aristotle's philosophy has been pervasive. It has even helped to shape modern language and common sense. His doctrine of the prime mover as final cause played an important role in theology. Until the 20th century, logic meant Aristotle's logic. Until the Renaissance and even later, astronomers and poets alike admired his concept of the universe. In the 20th century, a new appreciation has developed of Aristotle's method and its relevance to education, literary criticism, the analysis of human action and political analysis. Aristotle did more to put both philosophy and science on a systematic footing than any thinker before him and more than any thinker to come after him for many centuries. It could reasonably be said that while the Greeks provided the intellectual foundations for Western civilization, Aristotle provided much of the foundation for the Greeks themselves. Apart from such human and historical considerations, one of the best reasons to read Aristotle is for the excitement of seeing a great mind come to grips with many of the problems that have troubled people from his day to ours. Aristotle shows us vividly both how to do philosophy and what can be expected to come of it. Some of Aristotle's writing has now dated, and some of his views, such as those regarding non-Greeks, strike us as offensive today. Given the passage of some 2500 years, this is hardly surprising. His works on Nicomachean ethics, defense a perfectionist ethical theory, remain as sensible and important even today as the day they were written. And to whatever extent some of his attitudes may offend us now, they were much the same as those of any educated Greek of his time. It is difficult for any thinker to entirely throw off his cultural baggage. Now let us summarize. Together with Plato and Socrates, Aristotle also accompanies a prominent figure in Western philosophy. He was the first to create a comprehensive system of Western philosophy encompassing morality and aesthetics, logic and science, politics and metaphysics. Aristotle's views on the physical sciences profoundly shaped medieval scholarship, and their influence extended well into the Renaissance, although they were ultimately replaced by Newtonian physics. In the biological sciences, some of his observations were confirmed to be accurate only in the 19th century. His works contain the earliest known formal study of logic, which was incorporated in the late 19th century into modern formal logic. In metaphysics, Aristotelianism had a profound influence on philosophical and theological thinking in the Islamic and Jewish traditions in the Middle Ages, and it continues to influence Christian theology, especially Eastern Orthodox theology and the scholastic tradition of the Catholic Church. His ethics, though always influent, gained renewed interest with the modern advent of virtue ethics. All aspects of Aristotle's philosophy continue to be the object of active academic study today. There are few assignments for you to work out. 1. Describe Aristotelian ethics. 2. Summarize Aristotelian metaphysics. 3. Give an account on Aristotle's epistemology. 4. Explain the four causes with examples. 5. How Aristotelian logic differs from scientific logic. There are few references for you. 1. Tilly Frank, History of Philosophy, Central Publishing House, Allahabad. 2. Y. Mashi, A Critical History of Western Philosophy, Motilal Banarsidass, 1999. 3. Jadunath Sinha, A Manual of Ethics, New Central Book Agency, 1994. 4. Stewart David, Blocker Jean H., Fundamentals of Philosophy, Darling Kindersley Private Limited, 2008. Thank you for watching this program. See you next time. Until then, bye.